Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Inking Out Loud. Today is episode 30. Wow, 30 episodes we've recorded so far. Not counting the Patreon exclusive episodes, of course. Speaking of Patreon exclusives, real quick, before we dive into the meat and potatoes of today's episode, we'd like to remind our listeners that for the price of $2 a month, you can become an official patron of Inking Out Loud, and you can get access to things like our monthly newsletter, peeks at our upcoming schedule of episodes, and we do have a few higher tiers as well, allowing you to submit titles for us to read in the future, get access to all episodes a whole week early, and even live personalized shoutouts. So if this is your sort of thing, don't hesitate to visit us on Patreon at Inking Out Loud. Anyway, I'm your host, Rob Santos. I'm joined by my co-host, Drew McCaffrey, and today we're joined again by special guest Rob Winchell, making a return to finish our discussion of The Great Hunt by Robert Jordan. What's up, Rob?
How's it going, dude?
Good to have you back, man. Good to have you back. Gentlemen.
I missed you.
I missed you too, man, so much. My other half. Ha, you see what I did there?
That's true.
Anyway, let's begin. Opening thoughts. Drew, what'd you think, dude?
Yeah. So I really love this book. I love the ending. The first half of this book, especially the first third, isn't the fastest paced, opening of any of the Wheel of Time books. But I do think The Great Hunt has one of the best climaxes in the whole series.
Mm-hmm.
And just the sheer, excitement, the epic scale of what's going on. We have items of legend being, whipped out again. We got, the Heroes of the Horn. We have Rand and Balsamon fighting across the sky, and it's just really, really good. And honestly, one of my favorite things about it is the actual chapter titles at the end of this book. I love how much kind of oomph, once you know the context, things like Five Will Ride Forth, and To Come Out of the Shadow, and The Grave Is No Bar to My Call. These are great chapter titles.
Yeah, they're downright chilling, aren't they? I love them. I absolutely love them. Rob, what about you, man? How'd you find the second half?
There's nothing I really disagree with on Drew's deep, penetrative lore thoughts.
Yes, the deep, penetrative lore.
Yeah, he was gentle, but I loved Ingtar's, supposed death. I love that part. Not that he died. Well, a little bit. I do have the controversial opinion that Ingtar's not that good, but
did you say his supposed death? I mean, he died there, right?
Yeah.
He died.
Okay.
Yeah, I say supposed in the sense like you don't actually see it. It's
okay.
His
off-screen death. Yeah.
Let's see if anything to add.
You hear it though. I found that pretty cool.
I love the way. I love the scene. I love the scenes in the ways. That was great.
Oh yeah, with
Leandrin?
Girls.
Really?
Leandrin. Yeah.
Well, see, those are scenes I always kind of just like, I don't know, brushed past. Sorry, I don't mean to say brushed past, but they didn't really stick out to me. I just kind of in one ear and out the other with a lot of those scenes. I don't know.
Well, that's fine. I don't find that's not offensive to me or anything. It's okay.
I'm sure some people would find it offensive though.
I love the weird, the wind. I forgot why did I just blank.
Yeah, I'd forgotten damn it, what the heck is the word I'm looking for? Moniker, that's it. The Wonder Girls. Yeah. I'd forgotten entirely about that until you just brought that up, Drew. Yeah.
Although the Wonder Girls crew isn't quite complete yet, but
quite.
They're on their way.
Well, they're well on their way. But yeah, we see so much starting to pick up in action for the second half of the book. As you mentioned, Drew, it was a little on the slower side for the first third, but there was just so much world building, so much to prepare for and what was going to happen for the rest of this book. But starting where we left off, I mean, and this is something that we had briefly touched on at the very end, I think, of last episode, but in chapter 24, where we started, we begin to see the first real wave of effects that Rand has as a Taviran, and Gawain has a stunning example when he's talking to Egwene and he's talking to Min and Elaine in the White Tower, and he says, "Of course, such a strange fellow, a shepherd, although he never looked or acted like any shepherd I ever saw. Strange. I've met all sorts of people, and they've met Rand al'Thor. Some do not even know his name, but the description could not be anyone else. And he's shifted every one of their lives." And he goes on to explain about how there's this old farmer who came to Camelin to see Logain, and he stayed to stand for Margase when the riot started because of this young man off to see the world who made him think there was more to life than his farm. And then he specifically says, you could almost think he's Taviran.
Yeah.
I just, Gowan, you sweet summer child.
And Egwene in that moment, she's kind of like,
yeah, of course.
yeah.
You could think so, yeah. So much subtlety in his writing.
Well, and then especially in the second half of this book, and as we find out at the end when Moiraine talks to Rand, his effect on the world, his Taviran effect, is out of control now. With Cairhien in civil war, and Almoth Plain and Tarabon and Aradomon are basically at war, and Dragonsworn are proclaiming him, and there's all this strife tearing apart the world basically, and
poor Rand, and his never-ending mantra is just, I wasn't doing anything. I'm not doing anything.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to do this and trying to do that. This is all happening around me. It's happening to me, not because of me. But poor guy.
I loved how little he does and how he has no idea what he's doing, but he ends up playing the game of houses expertly in Cairhien. Like when he's talking with Barthanes during the party, and he just says random things, and Barthanes is like, wait, whoa. The grain barges.
I had
what?
no imagination that you were such an adept player.
Deeper, yeah.
The way he settles into cat crosses the courtyard, just starts walking like
Striding.
a badass. Barthanes just wasn't having any of it. Yeah, but it was awesome.
I loved, honestly, that whole Cairhien sequence. It's one of my favorite early kind of stretches of the series, where we get to see the main characters just learning to interact with the power structures in the world, right? It's like in the first book, Rand meets Morgase and he meets Elida and Gareth Bryan, but he's not able to interact with them. They just kind of talk to him.
Yeah, or around him.
And then he's sent away. Yeah, and then in this one, he's now interacting with nobles and officers, and he's providing an impact onto the power structures that previously existed in the world, where he did not in Eye of the World.
That's for sure.
Then, of course, it culminates with that party, which is tons of fun. I love the descriptions of the Cairhien and noblewomen circling like vultures around Ingtar and Rand.
Yeah, their kind of whole entire helplessness at the situation, somebody help me,
the two that come right up to Rand, they're like, my husband doesn't pay any attention to me. I would love for you to come play your flute. And Rand's like,
about as subtle as a sledgehammer.
Yeah, and then Brienne Taborwin shows up, and she's like, well, you don't have to worry about any husbands when it comes to me, because I don't even have one.
And then the MILF comes in. She's like, listen to these two chatting ninnies.
It's like the least believable thing about all these books, that they don't know how to talk to women, with how many women clearly
are into them.
Want these characters.
And I also got a crack out of how much Rand and Matt and Perrin kind of give each other garbage about it. I think it's Loyal asks, about the two rivers, and Matt's like, Marissa Ayelen thought I was handsome, and Loyal's like, is she pretty? And Rand's like, she has a face like a horse. And Perrin has to keep a straight face, Perrin says she has a face like a horse, and Rand privately he's like trying not to laugh because Marissa Ayelen is nearly as pretty as Egwene.
Which from Randall Thor is pretty high praise, because he compares Egwene to a lot of more notable faces, like Selene, for example.
Yes. and Elaine.
And Elaine Trakan.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Now, before we continue, diving into our characters on a one-on-one or I should say on an individual basis, there's a couple things stylistically about Jordan's writing I think we should discuss first. Some things are coming more into the spotlight that, a few maybe of, if you want to call them, of his proclivities. with his prose that, in the eye of the world, we didn't see a whole lot of yet, but I'm starting to pick them out here. And this is his use of metaphor or simile in his descriptions of people's demeanors, their voice, their eyes, their entire personality. There was a spot. So there's in one of Bail Domon's chapters, Eginin, with the first time we meet Eginin, her eyes made ice seem warm.
Yeah.
And knowing what I know going forward, having as much experience in this series as I do, I'm starting to notice these little ones, and I'm going, oh yeah, here we go. We're gonna hear that exact one over the course of the series, probably about 40 more times. What about you?
I think that's a fair point to make. I do think that Robert Jordan did a pretty good job of having a variety of different kind of descriptors that he could fall back on. So it's not always the same description, but he had kind of a pool of them that you could tell he went back to.
It's almost
several times.
Like a formula.
Yeah. And I don't have a problem with that. It's something that he found some things that worked for him, and so he used them when he thought it was necessary. I do think the specific descriptions of eyes, like that you pointed out. They're like 3 or 4, not all used in this book, but that recur. Their eyes like augers, or eyes like ice, and like comparing like how piercing somebody's gaze is, or how cold or hot, angry.
And for me at this point, we're not seeing a whole lot of it yet. I don't have a whole lot of complaint about it yet, but I feel like I will in later books when he starts describing, people's voice being so chilling that they made the ice storm seem warm, or something like that. These sorts
you could hear the ice cracking in their voice.
Yeah, it's just like, a few of them are really, really good, but in the future I'll be bringing this up more for sure.
The one with voices that always jumps directly to my mind.
Are you about to say the one in the Rune Lords?
No,
there was a really good one in the Rune Lords.
In the Wheel of Time, a description he uses a lot. Voices are often described as melodious. They're all the time. There are many voices in the Wheel of Time that are described as melodious.
Really?
Yeah.
Damn it! I hadn't picked up on that one yet. Now I feel like I'm gonna notice that one every time.
Yeah, there are even a few in...
Insert glass shattering noise.
Yeah, there are a few in The Great Hunt. Celine,
Damn.
at a couple of points, is described as having a melodious voice, and there's some accents that are even described as melodious.
What is melodious? What does a melodious voice even sound like? I'm not even sure I can...
Sounds like she's about to break into song.
Yeah, I always just kind of... My mental image was something kind of high and smooth.
Interesting.
Soothing.
I just did a search in Book Function for The Great Hunt, the word melodious, 0 results found.
Really?
Yeah. But I mean,
ooh.
There are a few...
Because he definitely talks about Celine's voice in that song style.
I know, I'm 99% certain in our first introduction of Moiraine in The Eye of the World, the first time we meet her, we get the word melodious. Mm-hmm. I know that because that's one of my formative...
as well.
Adjectives for Moiraine's character in my head, because that's how she was introduced. Melodious. She's got a voice like silver bells.
Now that we've said it, I know I'm gonna just use the word melodious 8 times in the next week.
So the first time they meet Celine, it says she laughed musically.
Ah, so it's
the same thing.
Damn near the same thing. Yeah.
What is what is laughing musically? It's rhythmic and in tune. I don't know. It's...
Like I said, though, I recognize that he has a few stylistic tendencies that he falls back on, but it doesn't bother me. I don't think it makes the writing weaker. It's fine.
Yeah.
What do you think, Rob?
You're wrong. It's clearly shit. He's obviously in this discussion. He's a terrible writer, and that's it.
Ow, that even hurts to joke about. I don't know.
And the podcast is over now.
Podcast is over, guys. Let's go get drunk.
I think we need to after that. Damn.
I'm hungover today, so
Scathing.
I hate everything today.
You know what?
It's fine.
I'm a little hungover too, actually. I'm struggling to get through my drink right now, actually. But it's also one of my favorite liquors, so it's not struggling. I'm not struggling too much.
Yeah, we'll get to what we're drinking at the end of the episode.
Oh yeah, we'll definitely get there. At the end.
Mine is I'm classy today.
Yeah. But sticking with the style discussion.
Yeah,
do you have
sticking with
anything else
style.
you wanted to bring up there, Rob?
I don't think there are at the moment. My notes are a little more haphazard today. They're all over the place. I didn't actually formally go through and sort them out. So if I find more on my phone, it's going to look like I'm ignoring you guys, but I'm just going through my phone here. But if I find any more anything decent about his style that I wrote down that I'm forgetting about, I'll bring it up and I'll try to make it smooth. But at this point, I don't think I have much more about his style quite yet.
So, I do.
Okay.
And I want to get your opinions on this, and that being the way Robert Jordan writes, specifically sword fights. With the sword forms.
Okay.
I know a lot of people don't like this. They don't like
who doesn't like this?
The names. I see it all the time in like forums and like Reddit fantasy, for instance. There's been a lot of hate on the Wheel of Time recently. I think I brought this up in the Eye of the World episodes. Maybe it's just because the series is getting a little more press now with the TV show, but I've seen a lot of hate on the Wheel of Time in like the Brandon Sanderson Facebook groups and on Reddit fantasy and things like that, where people are posting all the time now saying like, oh, I got 100 pages into the first Wheel of Time book and I hate it, and then it's like 100 comments of people hating on the Wheel of Time in the replies. And I've seen it a lot in there.
Sorry. I had to get that one in there.
Let's go fight.
Yeah.
I've seen it a lot in there where people complain about the way he describes sword fights. And personally, I like it. I think it's unique. I think it's original. And I disagree with the main complaint many people have with it. That being that you're like, oh, well, you have no idea what they're doing. It's just like
no, it's
words
bullshit.
thrown
you
out.
You can form that image in your head.
Yeah, my point and why I like it and why I think it's so deftly done on Robert Jordan's part is that you can kind of develop an image of what exactly they're doing based on the description of the sword form, right?
Moon rises over the water.
Hear,
hummingbird kisses the humming rose. Cat dances on hot sand. You get these very.
When you see like boar rushes down the mountain, you get this impression of like hammering overhand blows, and like river undercuts the bank, where you literally drop down on your knees and slice up.
Parting the silk.
Parting the silk. Yeah, and heron wading in the rushes and
balance, of course.
And so these are things that
people are stupid.
Like if you just take even half a second to really consider the words you're reading, it is descriptive. It does give you a great mental image, but it's something that like you can't be a passive reader. You have to actively engage with the text. So,
and this is something I think other. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Rob.
Oh, I guess like I like it too. I like it, but I almost liked it in. Dare I say it? I love a kung fu movie when they do the same thing and they start like naming off the poses and the stances, the same sort of thing.
That was quite an adventure we just had there. A smoke alarm went off in the middle of our episode, and we had to temporarily put aside.
We had to make sure that Rob and Drew
packets.
were not about to record an episode in a burning house.
I think we were discussing the sword forms before that.
Yes.
That all went
down.
Yeah,
you're right.
So yeah, but we all like what Robert Jordan did with that.
Oh yeah. And I think I'll take it a step further. Anybody who says differently is a dumbass. Sorry.
I like it because I viewed it as campy, but I still liked it.
Yeah, that's another thing I was going to bring up. I mean, we do see other authors starting to kind of, borrow a little bit from Jordan's style with their fight sequences. I think it was Rune Lords where I noticed a little bit of that. I don't want to say for sure, but we definitely have covered another series or book on this podcast where there were forms in the fighting that were very, very much like. Oh damn it! I'm starting to think this is maybe outside the podcast reading that I was doing.
Well, so there There was like one thing in Rune Lords where there's like a style of knife fighting called like Dancing Arms, but that's the only like name
Might not have
thing
been
I
Rune
can
Lords
remember in that.
because there were a few blatant examples, and I was wondering, do I bring this up on the podcast? But maybe we hadn't actually done that book on the podcast yet. I'm gonna harken back to this moment. I don't know, 10, 100 episodes later from now, I'm gonna say, remember during the Great Hunt Part 2, I brought this up. I'll bring it back sometime in the future.
You should do like an extra episode where you try to reenact the forms. I'm sure
That would be awesome. I actually have some
videos.
some ideas I've had for Patreon exclusive episodes and switching up our format type. Drew, I'll talk to you about. I'll talk to you about later. What the hell did I just try to say?
Give us money to watch us make fools of ourselves.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
like user submitted sword fighting stances
That'd be awesome.
that you have to make up.
Do the old classic like Wattmania humor sword forms. Cat killed crossing courtyard.
Whoa. See, I wasn't really around for the early 2000s Wattmania, like the jokes and stuff. I was, like 11, 12 years old. What's up, everybody?
Hey, there's
Yeah, we've kind of an audience today.
Sweet.
my posse. I'm not allowed to go places without.
How odd to
babysitters.
have an audience when we're talking about books, right? It's not like exactly what we're doing already.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't have any more like stylistic things to talk about, at least as far as the Great Hunt goes.
Yep. I just want to discuss Jordan's ability real quick to build tension across an entire book, and specifically with Jeffrem Bornhold's points of view when he's investigating the Shanchan and their presence on Toman Head. I mean, we didn't really meet Shanchan right away. We just kind of saw the evidence of their passing, for lack of a better term. And I don't know, like they're going back. Remembering as an 11, as a 12-year-old reading this, I wasn't too concerned with the Shanchan at that point. But if I were to go back and read that now, I think I would be creeped out by those scenes a lot more. I mean, the Shanchan in this book, now that I'm reading it with more experienced eyes, I mean, they are being presented as a huge obstacle already. Despite the fact that, of course, their ever-victorious army was kind of thwarted at the end. I mean, this is just the first glimpse of what's to come, right?
Yeah, definitely. And this is only, a small part of, as we see, the Forerunners. And that's not even to speak of the Return. Yeah. Which is... whew.
Those who come before. I think we actually got them described as those who come before, which kind of...
Yeah, they're called... That's like the proper... because it's an old tongue the Highlen, or Hylene. It's... old tongue translations are not exact. Yeah. So at different points, they're called those who come before, and they're called the Forerunners. So...
Yeah. Sweet. So, should we start discussing our characters then?
Sure.
All right. Where else do you start besides Rand al'Thor? Am I right?
All right. Yeah.
Rand al'Thor. This guy, he kind of frustrated me a little bit. Not much. I mean, I still empathized with a lot of what he was going through. I should say sympathized. I don't know. Not empathized. But, he has it a lot better right now than I think he appreciates. I don't think he's remembering just how terribly he had it before Moiraine returned to Camelin and found them. I mean, he and Matt were starving. Matt was sick with a dagger, and they were being chased by dark friends and sleeping under hedges and under bushes and stuff like that. We hear him a lot now in this book, kind of griping about his current circumstances and how he wants it to. He just wishes he could go back to when things were even more simple. And he was just fleeing dark friends and not having to face the truth of his identity and his destiny and his impending madness. I'm just like, God damn it, Rand, you're wearing a shirt that could buy a house. You're wearing boots that could buy a
whiny little bitch.
I mean, it's just, I don't know. I think he was a little ungrateful of Moiraine.
I was nowhere near as annoyed with Rand as my memory suggested in The Great Hunt. Reading through it this time, I didn't have a problem with Rand.
Really?
I maybe it's in part because I know where he's going, but even then, his reluctance seemed legitimate to me. It makes sense that he's acting the way he is. that he's afraid of what, could potentially lie in his path. He doesn't trust Aes Sedai. All he knows is that Legends of the Dragon are bad news, and now he's been told that he's the dragon, but he also has context saying the Aes Sedai are not to be trusted. I don't believe I'm the dragon. I don't want to believe I'm the dragon, so I see them as trying to use me as a false dragon, and that's like even worse, So of course he would be reluctant to take those first steps down that road, because to him it's a lie. And it's not till the end of the book when that second heron is branded on his hand and he's like, okay, I can't deny it, and that's when he makes the choice at the end.
I think I have to disagree with you a little bit. I think he's being willfully ignorant. I mean, if it looks like it, smells like it, sounds like it, tastes like it, maybe it's time to start considering that you're not being bullshitted. Maybe you are. Maybe as much as you don't like it, the idea of it, it's time to start accepting the hints. And like, he just, I don't know, he throws aside a few too many clear signs that's like, hey dude, you are the Dragon Reborn, you are a very powerful Taviran, probably the strongest to ever have walked the earth. Like, you could indirectly be causing a lot of misfortune and chaos just because you're pouting, because you're refusing to accept your destiny.
I mean, he's basically, I said in the last episode, he's a late teens,
I guess,
angsty, and he's basically got like a cancer diagnosis in a way. So it's like you get bad news. It's like, I'm gonna maybe get some
cancer that could affect other people too. You could harm those you love.
True.
I mean, I get how
it's like, the stages of grief. So he's like, it's the denial stage for a little while, and then eventually acceptance. He just goes through different.
I guess what really exemplified that for me though is his refusal to let go of the fact that Tam is his father, which is a terrible. It's hard. I can just imagine how hard that would be. But I mean, even with as much information, as much hints as we got early in the Eye of the World, I mean, Rand, come on, the signs are there. Just accept it already. He and of course he did at the very, 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 very end of the book, which I suppose was a kind of a narratively quaint place to leave off the second volume at, but it's
almost like he has a character arc or something.
It's so strange.
Yeah, but I hate how his character arc revolves around that so much, and like his acceptance of that. I don't know.
I mean, if he accepted
I feel like he's being willfully ignorant.
Skipped this book completely.
That's how I want to leave that off with. I feel like Rand was being willfully ignorant, and in this book, I didn't like him as much as I did in the first or going forward. So.
I mean, we get very little of him.
In the next one, we get very, very little. But it's some really cool stuff, isn't it? The little that we do see is chilling. You gonna ice, man?
Are you gonna chug it or some of it?
No, I'm not.
Maybe
I'll start.
Just informed of this tradition called icing. Is that like a thing down there that everybody does, or is that just specifically in your group of friends?
It was popular in like 2011.
Now that I think on it, you were a little surprised that I hadn't heard it. So I guess that kind of answers my question. But I'm going to start doing that around the house here. Going up to my mom and be like, here, what's this? Just drink.
Make your mom take a knee.
She would probably do it.
Anyway, Smirnoff Ice aside. Sticking with characters, another character whom I didn't mind as much as maybe my memory told me I should have, was Egwene. I didn't have much of a problem with Egwene in this.
Really? I wasn't expecting that. I thought you were going to say
Nynaeve. She was dumb.
Okay.
At a couple of points. All the Wonder Girls were actively stupid to follow Liandrin. I mean, like, all the warning signs.
I would argue that
Nynaeve
necessarily wasn't just because Nynaeve caught on right away, but she had to go and just make sure that the Wonder Girls were okay, right?
But like, that's the only kind of moment that I like really was frustrated by Egwene in this book was outside the Waygate when they meet Suroth and the Shanshan, and Egwene is just so dumb in that moment. She keeps like asking Liandrin and is like not even worried about the fact that this soldier is walking up to her and this Suldam is walking up to her, and she's like she just keeps looking at Leandrin, and when Leandrin doesn't respond, and it clearly isn't going to, she keeps asking her instead of doing anything. And
yes.
I mean, she is just super naive, and like that's again.
I do think her age
process
needs to be considered.
Yeah.
I mean, she's what, 17 at this point?
Yeah.
Yeah, about that.
16, 17. She's definitely not 18 yet.
I don't think we have a specific birth date. Like, we don't know what season she was born in.
Yeah.
She was 16.
We know she's like a couple years younger than Randall Thor, and he starts the narrative at 18,
she was
right?
16 at the beginning of Eye of the World. Rand was 19.
I thought he was 18. It's the same thing,
No,
though. I mean,
yeah,
you don't
yeah,
grow
but
a whole lot between 18 and
doesn't
19.
matter.
But
Yeah.
it's been about 9 months since the beginning of Eye of the World, so Egwene probably is older. She's probably 17 now.
How old was Nynaeve at the start?
25,
26. Oh, 25, 26.
She's
something
26 in A Crown of Swords.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Really? In
Yeah,
6 books later?
She specifically tells Satel and in Crown of Swords that she's 26.
Wow. So Nynaeve is younger than I am. Dang. There's a bit of a realistic slap in the face, because I used to look at Nynaeve as like, ooh, big, older woman, scary.
And I think Min is like 23, 24, somewhere in there. She's older than Rand, but younger than Nynaeve. Yeah.
Yeah.
But Galad as well. He's like in his mid-20s.
Specific, like in that scene, not the scene with Suroth in her introduction with Leandrin. I'm talking about the scene where they choose to leave the tower. Well, they don't choose; they are kind of swept along. It's like, hey, we need to go. And there, in that scene, there was something about Nynaeve that I hadn't really appreciated much until this, read through. And this is something I did mention in previous podcasts. But I just understand Nynaeve and her frustration so much more now. In that scene, we have Egwene's like, "Whoa, what's the danger? What's the danger? How can we help?" Elaine, of course, no, Elaine was dismissed for that scene. But it's Nynaeve that's immediately, you can tell, she's the one that's suspicious. She's going, wait, what kind of danger? What are you talking about? How can you know this? Why do we trust you? But Egwene is just not even considering any of that. She's just like, oh my god, tell me where the danger is. I need to go help right now.
Adventure.
Yeah.
I can just see Nynaeve wanting to slap Egwene in that moment. Like, bitch, shut up,
Maybe that comes with our age, because
that could be, and that could be it.
Wiser.
I mean, I'm willing to bet that probably is it.
Rereading.
Yeah. What about you, Drew? Nynaeve? You empathize with her struggles a little more, her frustrations a bit more.
I like Nynaeve. She's one of my favorite.
Yeah, you've never really had much to complain about on Nynaeve's front.
No, I'm a big Nynaeve fan. So
in the past,
I thought she comported herself very well outside the Waygate. She's the one who avoided being collared and got Elaine, out of there and fought off a bunch of Shanchan and Damane.
Yep.
And we showed she was quite resourceful.
Yep, and we get to see her taking a bit of that leadership role when she's, formulating the plan to save Egwene, right? How she's willing to kind of change the plan on the fly and say, you know what, we have our own Damane, don't we? Right here with the Sildam. I do like seeing the Nynaeve kind of take charge and pull those girls out of the fire that they've landed themselves in. That was a bit satisfying. There's a bit more of that I picked up on this read that I've never really appreciated before.
Was it in this book that she figured out that you had to channel to
be controlled by the Adom?
Yeah.
Yeah, that the Sildam are also... Yeah, that was in this book. I think it was
Egwene
that made that connection, though, wasn't it?
No,
that said, they're the ones that can learn.
Who made like the learning connection?
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly when that's figured out, but it's certainly Nynaeve. When they capture, is it Seta? They capture.
Seta, whatever her name was. Yeah.
Yeah. That Nynaeve is the one who like realizes, that this collar works on you too.
And another slight difference from when I was a teenager till now, when Rena, I think is Egwene's mistress, walks in the door, and Egwene gets that.
She
gets that moment of glory where she just grabs the pitcher and she smashes it into her abdomen, and she just climbs on her and starts punching her. As a teenager, I was going, yes, get her, Egwene. As a adult now, I'm reading this and
horrifying.
I'm going, oh my god, this poor girl, somebody stop her, somebody pull her off. I mean, like
the one that really gets
that I
me
sympathize
is,
with the Sildam, but
is the it's not even the like physical abuse that Egwene heaps upon her. It's when Egwene puts on the bracelet,
Yeah.
and like the description where she like covers her mouth with both hands, and then Renna's whole body convulses.
Yeah, I mean that's a side of
like,
cruelty in Egwene that we hadn't seen before and will never see again.
She
The
goes
rest
from
of the series. It's just I guess it kind of really shows how much torture she had been through, and kind of explains her total lack of caring for anything regarding negotiations with Ashan-chan later. But
she goes from
it was
sweet,
hard to
innocent, naive to basically a sociopath.
Yeah, and
All within
Nynaeve
one
has
book.
the point.
Yeah.
She's like, you know, wanting to get back at them is okay, but you can't let them make you like they are. And that's all I could think when I saw Egwene torturing her former mistress. I was like, damn, I don't remember feeling that horrified before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a really good point. And we see it going forward with Egwene. I mean, not to get into details, but like she has a tendency toward violence. She's a very quick trigger, so to speak.
Yeah,
Going
that's
forward.
true. With with some white cloaks that I'm in a specific spot that I'm thinking of.
Yeah, that's definitely one of them. But I just like sticking with the kind of the Falme character group there.
Sure.
Very quick aside, but the
Oh.
return of Deus Ex Domon. Once again, when somebody is in need of an escape, Bail Domon is there with his ship just in case.
Yeah.
They don't actually use him this time, but
No.
but this will not be the last time that Deus Ex Domon makes an appearance in the series. So.
No. But I mean, he still hasn't really. Well, I was gonna say he hasn't been altogether that much of a useful yet. But no, what am I saying? The first time we met him, he just rescued Rand and Matt and Tom Maryland from Shadar Logoth. What am I thinking?
Yep.
A couple of really cool things about Bail Domon I liked. I don't really have a whole lot about his character, but just some winning lines out of this man. He's just so funny to read. It's just fun to read.
I really enjoy his chapters in this book, honestly. Like
Settle
the
your
Alien
bowels,
chapter,
man.
The
I
Alien
love those
chapter at the
lines.
beginning where he's like trying to be set up, and he handles that pretty well. I also love the easing the badger reference that we get early on in the book, and then his one scene with the High Lord Turak, where Domon's like trying to figure out how to get out, and it's I don't know, like he's fun, like he's really competent, but he's a genial guy. He's the kind of person that I would like to know.
He's the kind of guy that dresses up as Santa, isn't he?
Party.
Yeah, he totally is.
Brings a little joy into everyone's world. I like Bail Domon. He's a cool guy. We got to meet, as I mentioned earlier, Egwene for the first time. That was kind of cool, seeing where she is in her life at this point, a confident captain in her own right.
Mm-hmm.
Who else do we want to discuss? I mean, I definitely want to discuss a whole lot about Ingtar, but that's a big discussion. Is there any like minor characters you want to throw out of the way first? Loyal. What am I saying? Loyal.
Oh, okay. Yeah, let's talk about Loyal. I do want to talk about Barthanes, but I may save that for a bit, like going into the lore kind of stuff.
Barthanes.
Yeah.
I'm just
a couple of
to
things
think
with him actually, but
what there is about Barthanes.
But let's talk about Loyal first here.
Oh yeah, I loved Loyal in this book. Like hands down, I did say previously that Ingtar was my favorite in this book. I think he still is. But I forgot just how much I loved Loyal in this book. Loyal came close. He's just so devoted to his friends, particularly Rand al'Thor. And you could argue that, yes, maybe it's Tavir and Rand's nature to pull those around him, but we don't see anybody who is as, I don't want to use the word, but I will, loyal.
Just,
to Rand. He's just so dependable. He's so polite. He's so naive. When, for example, this might have been in the first half of the book, and I forgot to bring this up. But when, no, it was definitely in the second half, right where we picked up here, when Dina, when she enters the common room to try to dice with everybody, and he's like, "You don't think she was cheating, do you, Rand? You don't think that she would..." he's just so clueless, right? The Trollocs show up, and one attacks Rand, and he's getting choked by one, he's being held by one, and then suddenly the hands fall away. Loyal is literally struggling in the
Wrestling
street,
a Trolloc.
wrestling a Trolloc. He's like, and there's something about that line. Hold on, Rand. Hold on. There's something about that I just got this burst of affection for Loyal. Like,
Yeah.
yes, get him, Loyal. You tell him.
I feel exactly the same way. And there was another point where to use your words, I had like a burst of affection for Loyal.
Yeah.
It's in Steading Sofu when he's like, I'm just gonna sit out here and read. I'm just gonna sit here and read. Okay. And like he was like, you can tell he's so uncomfortable. He's so scared of what's gonna happen. But like the consequences for it are almost comically light in comparison to everything else that's going on in the story, where there's like, like a literally existential threat. The shadow is coming over the land. The Horn of Valir is lost. Matt is gonna die. Like all this stuff, and Loyal's worried that they're gonna send word to his mother.
Yeah.
And like, it was just so cute. Like,
yeah, how his biggest fear is being married. But
Yeah.
Aerith, you do think that she was rather beautiful, don't you?
yeah.
She gave me a flower. She had. Was it in this book that he starts talking about her ears? I don't think it was. I think it's in the future, isn't it?
I think it's in the future. I don't remember specifically.
He's like, please understand, I'm
mentioned
not
her ears.
crude on purpose. That's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
who I am,
Don't judge my fetish. Don't kink shame me, Rand.
Oh, what a guy! Loyal is just a gem. He's a gem. He's just like he's like
He's a
what,
puppy.
9-10 feet tall, but he's like a cute little teddy bear. At the same
he
time,
totally
it's the
is.
weirdest. It's the weirdest juxtaposition. I can't get enough of Loyal going forward. This is awesome.
Rand and Loyal shipper.
Yeah.
Oh, but let's.
Did you say shipper?
Shipper. Shipping. It's a
God.
thing.
No, we're not getting into
Oh,
this
God.
podcast. This is not a thing we will ever do.
Oh, that's an image I'm never gonna get out of my head.
Actually, that's a lie. There's one couple I will ship, but that's not for. We won't get to that book for a long time. So
in the Wheel of Time.
not in the Wheel of Time.
Oh.
It's in a different series.
Oh well, then yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Is that a series I know?
It is a series. You know?
It's clearly
It's the Stormlight Archive.
And the dream
Oh.
couple is clearly
I have a
Loyal
few
and
ships
Lanfear.
in- yeah,
so
okay.
it's fine.
Loyal and Lanfear.
That'd
What
be a
about
great
Hurin
couple.
and Lanfear? No, we're not getting into this. We're not
I didn't hear any of those names. Damn it! I want to get okay.
But I want to talk just a little bit about Varen
Okay.
before we go into Ingtar. Because
Sweet.
Varen was extraordinarily interesting to me in the second half of this book. Because the more I considered it, the more I began to realize and start looking for things. Because Varen is a dark friend, right? Well, she's Black Aja.
Yeah.
She's ostensibly a dark
Tomato, potato.
friend. Well, she's a light friend, but she's Black Aja.
Yeah.
She's a double agent. Or a triple agent, I think she would
but
be
so-
technically.
So, a lot of her interactions with characters in the second half of this book are with other dark friends.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I didn't start really looking at it from this perspective until the party at Barthanes' manor.
Yes. Yeah.
When the way Varen and Ingtar interact.
Uh-huh.
And then the way Varen and Barthanes interact. Like, there's the one description where Hurin, he goes and gets Rand, and then he tells Rand, I tried to get Ingtar, but he was I tried to get Varen, but she was talking with Barthanes.
And she gave him such a look.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, of course. She needed to prevent Hurin from getting close, because she and Barthanes were totally talking dark friend things.
Yeah.
Dark friend talk.
Dark
Yeah.
friend social.
They were having their
Coming back full circle.
mini
Yeah, right.
little dark friend social
Oh,
there. So it was really cool then to see her interactions with Ingtar over the second half of the book, and then even more so after the Portal Stone. Right?
Oh, with Varen
Because-
after the Portal Stone. See, for me, it was Ingtar, but
Well,
with
yeah,
Varen?
that's a big part of it, is her interactions with Ingtar after Ingtar has gone through it. And he's seen all of these lives where he tries to break free of the shadow and he can't. And I just, there's a lot of interest with Varen in the second half of this. The things like her knowledge about portal stones, where she says she's actually visited the portal stone on Tomon Head.
Yeah.
You know,
which I found like a little convenient. I will say, I'm like, come on,
yes.
of all of the portal stones that Varen would have to have, it would happen to have had experience with.
But
the one on
again,
Tomon Head, really.
Convenience. The name of the game is Taviran.
I guess, and that's
and she
just
even like
what a nice
remarks
little
on that, right?
narrative device that Robert Jordan created, crafted for himself for this
There's,
specific thing.
For you.
You can't accuse anything in the Wheel of Time as Deus Ex Machina anymore because there's a built-in like
justification for it.
system with.
I feel at the end of this book, the horn could have been considered a bit of it.
No,
I
but
loved
because
it, but,
because what a Deus Ex Machina is, like by definition, is something that was totally absent throughout. Like the where that term originally came from was in like Greek plays where you have a human conflict, right, and then everything's gone so much to shit that at the end of the play, a god literally just like comes down and makes everything good.
Okay.
Because there's no other possible way to fix the situation. And so like even though the god wasn't in the play at all up to that point. So like
it's more of a Chekhov's gun with the horn, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
it's Robert Jordan was smart about how he built this world, where he recognized the things that could be construed as Deus Ex Machina and then built in foreshadowing for all of them. So you can't really like it doesn't come across as unearned or flimsy or things like that, because there's an in-world pre-explained reason for why it can happen.
Yeah.
So that was kind of all I wanted to say about Varen. But if we want to move into Ingtar, I mean, this is
now. Here's the thing: we have a couple of listener questions, and they each one involves Ingtar, one involves Varen. Do you want to discuss those separately in the context of those specific characters, or do you want to save those listener questions for one?
No, let's do
the Varen one. Now,
yeah, let's do the Varen one now. Yeah.
This one here comes from Joy Kristen Allen, and she asks, "What did Varen see in all of her lives in the Portal Stone?" So you can see why I wanted to bring this up right here, because this is exactly the subject of discussion at the moment. This Portal Stone and the lives that she saw when she went through. What do you think?
So I'll preface this by saying, like, there are no real answers here. We don't have, like, you know...
We can only speculate.
Quote from RJ on it. We don't have, like, Team Jordan stuff. But as far as speculation goes, the things for me that I have to imagine she saw were revolving around her exile from Farmatting and her studies of the Black Aja that got her into the situation where she was basically confronted with the choice of swear oaths to the Dark One or die.
Yeah, or die. Yeah.
So I think she probably saw alternate ways. You know, she probably saw times where she did die, where she wasn't given the opportunity to swear and she was just killed. She probably saw versions of her life where she never left Farmatting and never even learned she could channel because she spent her entire life inside the Guardian's influence. Things like that.
Yeah. I agree with pretty much everything you just said. Of course, this is highly speculative. We don't really have any extra detail from Robert Jordan, but you know, just based on the kind of lives that we saw Rand experiencing, you know, I can only imagine that Varen's experiences would have been filled with, you know, as you mentioned, her exile from Farmatting, her I guess kind of forced turn to the shadow. But more than that, I can only imagine that it would have included a lot of the results of her trying to make amends, of her trying to leave the Dark Friends. And I think she would have been given really stunning example after stunning example of just how great of a hold the Dark One has on someone's soul once they have sworn the oaths. Mm-hmm. So I can just imagine it. Go ahead.
Clarification question. I guess it might be a dumb question, but was she already a double agent at this point, or did she decide along the way to essentially
Well, I think how she
in the
justified
Great
it later
Yeah.
was
Oh,
that
she was definitely a double agent.
already at this point?
I
She
think
already
in her
was
explanation
decided
to
later on.
Egwene later, she explains that in that moment she decided part of her whole reason for joining the Dark Friends was she wanted to study them from the inside.
Mm-hmm.
So I think she was pretty self-aware of what she
Yes.
was doing even
Yeah,
at the moment.
I don't
Gotcha.
think she was ever like properly a dark friend. She never wanted to serve the Shadow.
I think she was actually...
She was studying the Black Oddjaw,
Yes.
and over the course of her studies got in over her head, and her choice was swear the oaths and live and continue studying and work to undermine them from the inside, or refuse to swear and die.
I'm just now realizing the
remember.
parallel between her and another character from the Stormlight Archive in that particular respect. Not as a dark friend, of course, not working towards evil, but
yeah, I know where you're going with that.
yeah, you know where I'm going with that.
We'll touch on that more when we get to the
I
Stormlight
hadn't
Archive.
considered that. It's
but,
interesting. Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything more about Varen?
I don't know. I don't. There isn't anything in particular that I imagine. Like we know that can inform more of what she may or may not have seen in those Portal Stone lives. It has to be mostly just like farmatting stuff and then the Black Oddjaw.
Yeah.
So
Before we get on from Varen, though, I actually just found another long point, actually, I made about Varen. Oh, actually, two, but one's really, really short. Just really quickly, wow, foreshadowing, Robert Jordan, well done.
Oh,
Those hints that we got about Varen being a dark friend in the very, very beginning of this series is unbelievable. Specifically when Moiraine says, I didn't send Varen. She came on her own.
yeah,
You know?
yeah.
Boom! Red flag. Did not catch up on that for 15
Like
years,
there's
I think it
no
was.
Aes Sedai wiggle room on that one.
There's
Like,
none. I still didn't pick up on that until the revelation in the Gathering Storm. I was like, oh my god. And I felt so dumb. Dumb. But one thing that Varen seems to have going for her character is she seems to have a lot of unexpected knowledge. And like we were just discussing about the Portal Stones. That too, yes. But even about the Shoiden Kal. She had a lot of knowledge about those two things, like those Sa Angreal. She knows way more than I expected, and in other ways she knows less, but that is to be expected. And I quoted her here: "The two must be used in unison to handle enough of the one power to break the world. That was the way in the Age of Legends. A man and a woman working together were always 10 times as strong as they were apart. And what Aes Sedai today would aid a man in channeling? One by itself is powerful enough, but I can think of a few women strong enough to survive the flow through the one on Tremalking. The Amerlin, of course, Moiraine and Elida, perhaps one or two others. By the way, one of those couple others, that has to be Cadsuane, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And 3 still in training. As for Loghain, it would have taken all his strength simply to keep from being burned to a cinder, with nothing left for doing anything. No, Ingtar, I don't think you need worry." Does she not understand how powerful Loghain is?
So no, she doesn't. This was like my last point on Varen.
Sure.
There are several points in this book where Varen, despite being brown and despite having a lot of knowledge, is flat out wrong.
Yeah.
She talks about Damane being able to sense men who can channel.
Oh, did she? I didn't pick up on that.
Yeah, she.
Oh,
worries
yeah,
about it.
that glance that she gave Rand, and then Ingtar
So
is like,
she
"Ha!"
says straight out as they're planning on
Yeah.
going in and choosing who can go and who can't. She says, "I can't go. My presence will be sensed. If I were to channel, the Damane would immediately know I was there. Even if a man channeled, perhaps they might know." And
I think
Ingtar's
she said
like,
perhaps
"Oh,
a man.
yeah."
I don't know if she...
But that just goes to show she doesn't know.
Yeah.
If she really had complete information, she wouldn't even bother mentioning that.
Yeah.
Like she would it would be a non-concern.
Also putting
And-
aside the fact that each of those
yeah.
Shoiden Kal is strong enough to break the world on its own.
Yes. And so I want to bring up the strength thing, like where you talked about Loghain.
Yeah.
So we know Loghain could channel enough to control.
Oh, yeah, he
female
is
Shoiden
strong.
Kal. We also know that Moiraine, Elida, Swan, they probably could not.
Yeah.
They are
I
not
agree with
strong
that too.
enough. Cadsuane, maybe. Egwene, Elaine, maybe. I mean, like, Nynaeve could
Oh,
barely
yeah.
do it.
Well,
And she's one of the strongest.
what
Like,
makes you?
know,
Why do you say barely do it though? Was it because of how she was left off at the end of Winter's Heart?
yeah, so
Because that
I mean,
was
it
not a
was,
usual use of the Schwed Kel.
No,
That was
it was
hours
not,
and hours.
It was not usual. But even from the get-go, when they start channeling, Nynaeve like groans.
Sure,
and
but that's that's
she
ecstasy,
talks.
right? That's not like struggle.
No, like she's like, oh, it's so much. Like, it's Nynaeve was not like she could probably use the Troid on call, all right, for short amounts of time, but like certainly, Moiraine and Elida and Swan could not handle that.
Oh yeah,
Like,
they would just be erased. Yeah, from existence.
They would be burned
Tried,
out
I think.
or just completely consumed. But yeah, there are a few things like that with Varen where, because she has so much knowledge, it's easy to take everything she says at her word and just use that, going forward and be like, all right, these are things we know. And then you find out later on that, oh, wait a second, like Varen did not know.
No,
So.
she speculates, but she doesn't know. And I guess it kind of goes to show I don't want to say folly, but just the inexperience of the Brown Aja. I mean, they are, the Aes Sedai as an institution in general, they don't know everything. They claim to know a lot, and they do know some, but they definitely don't know everything. Yeah, so I guess that kind of wraps up Varen, right?
Mm-hmm.
You want to start talking about my favorite character, Mr. Ingtar?
Let's do it.
Okay,
'Cause
Ingtar.
this is the big one.
This is the big one. Ingtar has, for the entirety of my experience with the Wheel of Time, been one of my top 3, maybe let's say top 5 favorite characters in the entire series. It was awesome.
That's fair.
The character journey we got with Ingtar over such a short narrative amount of time. Bravo! It was so well done. Like, in a million years, I never would have caught on my first read through that Ingtar was a dark friend. Like, he was quite literally. I might have even considered like some more of our main characters, or at least tertiary characters, being dark friends before Ingtar Shinoa. I mean, the consummate warrior, the one who spends it like. The one who just faces down Trollocs and Myrddraal like for breakfast in the morning as a workout routine,
Mm-hmm.
God, it was so hard to read his revelation at the end there.
Was a powerful scene.
His reasoning, like he doesn't even come right out and say it. He just starts listing all these reasons and going over his logic there. And Jordan
only logical.
Yeah, and Jordan only kind of he lets the reader draw the conclusion before Ingtar even says anything about it, like even confirms it.
Yeah.
But it was so hard. And then of course on a reread that completely changes the entire character of Ingtar and all these things that he's doing, these little things that he says, these moments with Ingtar that you go, oh my god, like that line reads totally different now that I know what's going through his head. There is a moment when the horn escapes from Kyrian, goes through the ways, and they try to follow, and Machin Shin is there, and then Ingtar, he just collapses and he goes, "We are lost. I am lost." Well, yeah, he says, "We are lost. I am lost." Like he says one and then after the other. And then when you realize what he means, "I am lost," he's specifically talking about his destiny,
soul.
his soul.
Yeah,
he's damned.
Yeah, he sees no possible salvation.
Yeah,
and that was such a powerful through line. This whole prophecy around the horn, think not of glory but only of salvation, and Ingtar sees that. He's like, that's my lifeline. That's the one strand I can cling to bring myself back to the light.
Yeah, and this is a really neat jumping off point for another listener question that we had from Facebook, and I apologize if I get your name wrong, my man. Rashid Kurugli wants to know, this is what he wrote, specifically about Ingtar. He says, he was a dark friend, but overly obsessed with the Horn of Valir. I think all of his dialogues involved the Horn. It felt very much like compulsion. Do we have any info on that? Drew, I'll let you answer that one, dude.
Compulsion?
Yeah.
As far as I know, he was not under any kind of compulsion.
Right.
The only possible, at least as far as we know, the only possible compulsion that might have happened was from either Lanfear or Leandrin, because Leandrin had her little semi-compulsion
Yeah, she has that
weave
kind
that
of
she used on Lady Amelisa.
trick that she has.
But
yes.
Lanfear did not know about the horn. Otherwise, Lanfear was all concerned about Rand.
Wait, did you say Lanfear did not know about the horn?
Sorry, Leandrin.
Leandrin, okay.
Yeah, sorry. Leandrin did not know about the horn in Faldara, and that was her only chance that she would have had to, get Ingtar under any kind of influence. Lanfear, again, she was not interested in Ingtar. We also see her going
she was
out
not
of her way
interested in
to
the horn
ignore
either.
the standard
Yeah.
Dark Friend structures. And yeah, she wasn't interested in the horn.
Yeah.
All
yeah,
she cares about is Rand.
Yeah.
But we see her throughout the series ignoring the existing Dark Friend structures. She doesn't utilize Dark Friends the way other Forsaken do. And in fact, we see her working at cross purposes with your run-of-the-mill Dark Friends and your Black Aja several times. She's so thoroughly focused only on Rand, on Luce Theron. There would be no reason for her to put a compulsion on Ingtar. I think it really is Ingtar just saw the Horn of Valir as his only chance at salvation, so he became obsessed with it.
That's exactly what I was going to say. We don't really have any reason to believe that anybody was even around Ingtar who had the motivation and the ability to place compulsion on him at any point.
Right.
But if you think about what the Horn of Valir represents to Ingtar, I mean, this is his salvation. I am damned. I am a dark friend. Yeah. He just lived all these lives in which he sees in the Portal Stone that no matter what he does, the Horn of Valir is not going to save him. But that's what he had been hoping for. That no amount of misdeeds, no matter how dark they are or how numerous, would have fully damned him. No man may walk in the shadow so long that he cannot again find the light. I forget what the idiom is. Yeah. But the Horn of Valir represented that to Ingtar. That was his salvation. That's how he saved his soul from the Dark One. And so, that provides plenty of motivation for him to try to recover. And of course, since he's a sworn Lord of Shinar, who's there on the blessing of Lord Agelmar himself, he has all the power of his station. The Ingtar is just he's a man perfectly brewed to launch at the Horn of Valir. He's made for that purpose. Everything about Ingtar culminated in the Horn of Valir.
Yeah, so I 100% agree with you there, and I my opinion is not changed. I don't think he's under compulsion, but I do have to add, technically it's also possible Varen could have done it, because as we find out later in the series, Varen also has a compulsion type weave.
Does she?
Yeah, she uses it on all the captured Aes Sedai after Doom as Wells, who then swear fealty to Rand.
Oh.
There's a scene in, I think, A Crown of Swords or Path of Daggers, where she has individually each of these Aes Sedai brought to her tent, and she puts the weave on them and asks them. But anyway, I also don't think Varen would have had any reason to put Ingtar under compulsion. So, but I want to get Rob Winchell's opinions on Ingtar here.
Yeah,
I know you maybe some dissenting opinions,
some controversial opinions.
Really?
On Ingtar. Yeah.
Awesome.
I mean, he's a hypocritical, whiny little, bitch.
Ooh, spicy words.
Oh man, it's like I said, it's because
justify
I'm hungover,
it though.
so
What do you
I
mean?
hate everybody.
At what point was he being a whiny bitch?
I mean,
specifically,
he's held up as we talked about in the last episode. I viewed him as just cliche, super honorable, everything like that. But then he's also turns out to be a dark friend. I was like, oh, so you're a hypocrite. Got it. Okay. It just his general arc was. His arc was fine. I think he was set up in a lot of good scenes, like his realization scene, his death scene at the end. They're great, individual moments. But at the end of the day, his overall arc to me was you started as a hypocrite, and congratulations on in the last 5 minutes of your life doing the best to make up for it.
But that's the point.
Great.
It didn't have to be the last 5 minutes of his life, but he wanted to die for a reason. For doing exactly that. It didn't. I mean, those were the last 5 minutes of his life, but that's because he chose to end his life there.
See, I do agree.
Change. Like I said, his arc is good. I didn't view him as like my favorite character in the book or anything.
Sure.
I just like, oh, this guy's a hypocrite, and I super tried to be honorable. At least I got the impression. Like you said, I viewed his chasing as a horn as borderline obsession.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't. I didn't view it as any. Like
Oh,
I
he was
didn't know it
definitely obsessed. Oh yeah.
Yeah. It was, and I just like I assumed it was obsession due to honor the first time through because it's like, yeah, whatever. This guy is great. But then it's I don't know. I viewed him as a hypocritical, and I didn't like his inner struggles, things like that. It almost like. I feel like in a kind of a loose connection, him and Rand had similar arcs. Like Rand's like similar thing. Like if he accepts he's the Dragon Reborn, he's screwed. Like that's it. Ingtar's soul is essentially like Ingtar views himself as screwed and accepted it. Rand is struggling to accept a similar-ish fate of just he's boned sort of. I don't know. It's a loose connection, and again, I'm very hungover. So
I think you have a really valid point there. At least as far as like Rand's arc versus Ingtar's arc, not necessarily they have the same thing, but they're inversions of each other.
That's a
where
better way to put it.
Ingtar has his responsibilities and does not run from them. He faces them head on, and Rand is the one trying to run from his responsibilities.
Yeah,
and so it's the only thing I'll like really disagree with you on is like I don't think I ever saw Ingtar as whiny. I do think he's a hypocrite.
I might have just said that for effect.
I think just by definition, he is a hypocrite. I mean,
yeah. So, but that's also part of why I enjoy his arc is because it's so tragic. Because he was misguided. He made the wrong decisions for not great reasons. But in the end, he recognized that he made the wrong decisions, and he recognized that his reasons weren't what he thought they were, or weren't as good as he thought they were. And thus, he strove to find redemption.
And he's willing to die, which presumably is the exact reason that he switched to the Shadow, because most Dark Friends are not willing to die. So that that provides a perfect...
He even said straight up, he's like, I didn't want to die. I didn't want to be just erased and forgotten. It would like better to live and make this peace with the Shadow. And then as you said, Rob, like Dark Friends are all about selfishness. And Ingtar died in a selfless manner.
Is Ingtar the only Dark Friend I can think of offhand that did convert back? Like, is there any that turned from the Shadow?
Well, Varen was never really...
kind of.
Yeah.
Is there anyone else, or is he the only one that does actually leave or convert back?
Some people will argue that Asmodean did.
I don't believe he did. But I can see why people would argue that.
I do not buy that. I do not buy. There are a lot of like Asmodean fanboys and girls out there. So
I was one for a long time. I was definitely an Asmodean fanboy for a long time.
But I do not like. He was always self-interested. If he like he turned away and was actively trying to help Rand, but that was purely for reasons of self-preservation, because he knew, like, the moment Rand captured him and forced him to work with him, he knew he was done. And if he ever got back in the hands of the Shadow, the Dark One was not going to forgive him.
Man.
Like, it was all self-preservation. It wasn't like...
Ingtar is the only one that essentially made a complete...
That I can think of off the top of my head, at least.
So I'll give him that. Like, he did... Robert Jordan set it up to essentially be, once you're in, it's essentially, like joining a gang. You can't get out. Like,
I feel like there's going to be one really obvious character that for some reason or another we're missing right now, and then by the time this comes out, it's going to be like, oh, blank, how could you miss them? And we're going to be like, oh my god, how did we miss that? I just feel like I don't know.
I guess, like, you guys mentioned, like, he was misinformed and he joined for the wrong reasons, but I feel like you guys are very forgiving for him on that, but, like, other characters make bad decisions because they're uninformed or things. Like, just earlier in the book, like, Egwene, like, she's naive and stupid, and she makes bad decisions, and, we have no problems calling her an idiot. But Ingtar was in the same place, but we forgive him because he has a dope death scene.
Well, we forgive him because he recognized his
how
misguided he was.
Yeah, misguidance. Yes.
Like he recognizes it, and as far as I'm concerned, Egwene never has a shred of self-awareness.
She literally goes
until
out
the moment she dies. So
not believing that she's ever in the wrong. Here's the thing.
No,
Ingtar has
she's
self-doubt.
infallible,
That's the difference
as far
to
as
me.
she's concerned.
Ingtar
Yes.
is self-aware enough to have doubts.
Yeah.
Egwene never doubts herself, even once.
No, she does not.
As any 17-year-old.
In fact, I'm going to go forward with a challenge. I would like somebody to prove me wrong. Give me an example of one point in the series where Egwene has self-doubt.
Oh, I mean, she has a couple of self-doubts, like right after she's raised Amerlin. But,
really?
She feels overwhelmed, like in Saladar, and she's like, this makes no sense. Like, I don't belong here. Like, what is going on? But,
maybe. And we'll
but
definitely
she also
discuss that a lot
quickly,
more.
Yeah. She very quickly just is like, no, I deserve this. Yeah. This is me. But
one more quick Ingtar moment that I had to give a great shout out to was when they are infiltrating the High Lord Turak's manor to get the horn, and Ingtar comes back, and then he's asked, like, "Where's the guard? What happened to him?" And he just says, "Oh, the man was overconfident. He never even tried to raise the alarm. I hid his body under the bushes." It's just like, oh, he was overconfident. Yeah. Definitely, yeah. Ingtar is such a badass. And the way he faces down that fade. By the way, this is a question I wanted to ask you. In Faldara, he faces down the fade before Rand goes into the tunnels or into the dungeon to save Egwene. What do you think happened after Rand left the room? Do you think Ingtar got down on one knee and said, "Please don't kill me"? Do you think Ingtar actually fought the Murdral and fought it off?
No, I think Ingtar was the one who let them in the first place, so the Murdral knew he was a dark friend, and so the Murdral, as soon as there were no witnesses, he and the Murdral probably were just like, "All right, see ya, bud," and peaced out. I mean, not in so many words.
The TV show should definitely have that scene. That's fair.
He let Fane in as well.
But remember, he had self-doubt, so we like him. So it's fine.
Yeah. Oh no. That's not the only reason.
He made a bunch of dick moves, but he was aware they were.
At least
moves,
he was
so
uncertain.
Okay with it.
Exactly.
So my last little Ingtar note is unless I missed something in Eye of the World, we have our first instance of a gray man in this book. The Ingtar let in a gray man, and it was a gray man who shot at probably Rand, not the Amerlin, at the beginning of Faldara.
I thought it was Podden Fane who shot at Rand in the Amerlin, because he can feel the eyes on him.
Podden Fane was long gone.
Well, that's. I didn't think he had quite left yet, because why can Rand feel the gaze of the person on him as the arrow is fired? But that's something that we've only heard Rand say about Podden Fane.
So
is that
I'm going to give you a quote right now that's going to end this conversation.
Okay.
He's going to mic drop you.
He's going to mic drop me.
I am gonna mic drop you.
Bring it.
Do not drop my mic.
Pat chiming in there. This shit's not free, you know.
I never knew what he was going to do, Ingtar said softly, as if talking to himself.
Yeah.
A pale little man you didn't seem to really notice, even when you were looking at him.
Oh, even when you're looking at him. Okay, there's the caveat. Okay. All right, because I was gonna say that could also describe Podden Fane. He's a little
Podden Fane was days out of a day out of Faldara already. Like Podden Fane,
he left with the Dark Friends.
Fled.
Yes.
Yeah, he fled.
I thought maybe he stuck around to have one final shot, because it was just the way that Rand described having that filthy gaze on him, and he was looking around. I was like, that sounds like Podden Fane.
The Shadar Logoth connection with the eyes?
No. It was when it was moments when Fane was trapped in the dungeons at the beginning of the book, and he was looking up and he was looking towards Rand, and Rand could feel the gaze on him through the stone, through the floor. So I figured the fact that Rand could feel the gaze from whatever Unseen Watcher released the arrow at the Amerlin, or at himself.
Gotcha. Yeah, no.
I thought, maybe Podden Fane didn't leave quite yet. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, that's my last Ingtar.
Then why didn't they catch the Gray Man?
Because he's a Gray Man.
But there's a Shi'ar soldiers. After, I can see why they wouldn't notice him up until the point he released the arrow. But once the whole keep is on alert and the Amerlin has been attacked, and Agelmar is screaming, "Find him!"
So
you think the Shi'ar soldiers would have been able to find this Gray Man?
I mean, it's likely what I believe Swan Sanchez said. She's like, don't even bother looking for him. He's out of the keep already.
Another question I had for you about that exact thing with Swan Sanchez. Why was she in such a hurry to get back to Tarvalin? Yeah, wait, hold on. I think I asked you this last episode. I might have actually already asked you that question. Why was she in such a rush?
All of her information is going to Tarvalon. All of her eyes and ears are sending their pigeons there. That's her center of power. Like, she can't influence events from Faldara like she can from Tarvalon.
Yeah, I guess. But I don't know, it seemed like she had, like, a direct reason. Like, we need to get back. But, yeah.
In my hungover musings, I'm thinking, Ingtar dying, could that have just basically just been him committing suicide to not face the realization of what he's actually done of him? Because we're literally just listing all the things he did to essentially screw everyone over this book. And, it's like suicide by cop.
No,
like that. I mean,
no, because
because he talks about it beforehand. Again, like from that same scene, he tells Rand he says because he talks about his lives and he says that anything he did, he couldn't get out. But then he says, surely, like the horn would have been enough to save me. No man can walk along the shadow; he cannot come again to the light. That's what they say, and then he, you can tell like he's warring over this vision of all these lives where he could never escape. And he says, no matter what I did, I tried to escape what I'd become, but I never did. Always there was something else required of me, always something worse than the last, until I was... And he trails off and he goes, you were ready to give it up to save a friend. Think not of glory. Oh, light, help me. And then he says, there has to be a price, Rand. There's always a price. Perhaps I can pay it here.
That was ostensibly...
So he is committing suicide, but not to escape any consequences. He's committing suicide because he believes that is the price to escape the shadow.
I don't know. Reading that, it almost sounds like he's reflecting on his bad decisions. It's like, I can't even live with myself anymore. I think it does lean more to your side. I'm just saying it feels like the interpretation could be made.
Ostensibly, the reason that he joined the Shadow was the same reason that all other Dark Friends joined the Shadow. Life everlasting, not having to face death. And he thought, maybe, instead of having to die, I can replace that with the Horn of Valir, and I could do good for the light. And then he finds out.
I will say he did not join for the same reason as all the other Dark Friends.
Well,
other Dark Friends joined for power.
Or I don't know. I feel like a lot of them
every other Dark Friend we get in their head, like we get a point of view from, was always like, I was promised power. I was promised dominion. I was promised
not at all. We get several examples of Dark Friends saying they didn't want to die. That was the whole reason.
No, that's not the whole reason. That's never the whole reason.
I think
we'll say they were promised immortality, but they were also all promised power. That's the ultimate, like, it was the ultimate, like, selfish, I want to rule. Like
the one who comes to mind...
Shiane, Jakim Carradine.
The one who comes to mind... Bors. Damn, I didn't even consider Bors. I was thinking of Hadmin Kadir.
They all wanted power.
But, I don't know. We'll get to that later. But I just, wrapping up Ingtar, I just wanted to say, ostensibly, the reason he joined was for immortality, I think, right? And he wanted to replace the fact that he had to die someday with, maybe I'll take the Horn of Valir and do some good for the light, and that'll redeem me. And his, of course, culminative decision of, okay, I guess I can't escape death, and the Horn has to escape.
So I don't think he joined for immortality. He never talks about living forever.
It was being forgotten, right?
Yeah, he just saw it. He saw it as futile to resist. So it was better to make peace with the shadow.
Nations rising and falling. Nations being erased.
And it was better to make peace with the shadow and continue on than to partake in futile resistance. So
yeah, well, now that we've done about 20 minutes on Ingtar, maybe more.
And so when Sean Bean is cast as Ingtar for the TV show, we can.
Oh my God, I hadn't considered that. You know who I would like to see as Ingtar? Damn it, who was it? Liam Neeson, I think it was. I was like, damn, that would be kind of cool.
I think he's too old.
A little too old. Yeah, Liam Neeson is like 70s. I didn't know that. Oh yeah, that'd be kind of cool. Yeah.
I
keep thinking Liam Neeson is like in his 50s, but that dude is old.
How about Wesley Snipes for Guidal Kane?
Yeah, right. Or and this one's a joke. Everybody, relax.
This is
the one time I heard Hugh Jackman for Perrin. No. I
No.
swear to God, I heard Hugh
No.
Jackman for Perrin. It was in the Wheel of Time group. It was about 4 years ago, and I couldn't sleep for like 4 days after that.
Imagine you like tossing and turning, and you're
Oh
just
my
like,
God.
Tortures
Jackman.
your soul.
I'll never get over that.
So actually, I do want to just add one thing in, and this will be, unless you guys have any other like character things you want to talk about, a segue into
just
our into the lore little.
Yeah, go ahead, dude.
Okay, so speaking of Guy Dalkane, who carries his swords on his back. I don't think I mentioned this on the last episode, though I had a note to. One of the big criticisms of the cover of Eye of the World is that Lan carries his swords on his back.
Oh, the Eye of the World. I'm thinking he's not on the
Yeah.
cover. Yeah, you're right. First book.
He's got 2 swords, and they're both on his back on the Eye of the World cover, and people complain about that all the time. Like, yeah, obviously,
Samurai
he only has
Lan?
one sword. He only has one sword, and everybody's like, he doesn't carry him on his back. In The Great Hunt, when Rand actually describes Lan at one point, and he says sometimes he carries his sword on his back. I think it's the only time in the series it's mentioned, but Rand says sometimes he carries his sword on his back.
Do you think that was perhaps
in
Jordan
the Nine Rings
writing that on purpose? Do you think he was already getting that kind of
it may be
complaint after the Eye of the World? So in Great Hunt, he was like, you know what, everybody?
Yeah, it was.
You know what, everybody? It's like a big middle finger. So like,
Down here, I'm God.
It's in the Nine Rings.
Foreshadowing.
And he's like asking. I think he asks the. Yeah, he asks the innkeeper. Oh no, actually, he's actually talking with Caldwin. He says, "Tell me, Captain, if you don't mind, have you seen any other strangers recently? A lady, short and slender, and a fighting man with blue eyes. He's tall, and sometimes he wears his sword on his back."
He's also very dreamy.
Wait a second. Wait.
He's talking about Moiraine and Lan.
Why is Rand looking for Moiraine and Lan in Kyrian?
He's wondering if they, because he doesn't know where Moiraine went, and he doesn't totally trust, because the whole book he's really paranoid about how Moiraine's like all hands off, right?
Right.
So he's paranoid about that.
So he decides, I'm in Kyrian. I'm the first inn I'm going to visit. I'm going to ask if they've seen Moiraine. Like, what? That doesn't make... No, whatever.
Well, and Moiraine's from Kyrian.
Well, she is from Kyrian, but would she be hanging out in the Foregate?
This isn't the Foregate. This
It's not
is
the
at
Foregate?
the Troidan Call expedition.
Tremontian.
In Tremontian, yeah.
Yeah, so why would she be
In the
there
Nine
then?
Rings.
Whatever.
He's paranoid. Rand's paranoid.
I guess, yeah. He's paranoid.
But yeah. So that's kind of my little transition here into the lore segment. And I only really have 2 lore things to talk about. One of them much more concrete than the other.
Okay.
And so I'll start off with the concrete one, and that is the Ways and Padan Fain.
Okay.
And the fact that this book really solidifies, again, Varen is wrong, Padan Fain can command the Black Wind.
Okay, yeah, that was a question I had for you going on later. I'm glad you brought it up now, though. So Pain. Wow, Fain can a bit of.
Yeah, because when he was overrun by the Black Wind at the end of Eye of the World, outside of Faldara, Mafal Darnell, and he claims to understand the voices, and he essentially befriends the Black Wind.
Yeah.
And so
here's the thing, the voices in the wind, they're saying Althor. They're actually saying Rand's last name. So that's what made me start to think. I was like, oh, maybe he can command the Black Wind. So that's just straight up concrete. He definitely can.
There are two options for what happened here. So we know that the Black Wind, when it overcomes somebody, like it can kill them, or it can steal their soul. And it's a possibility that when it overwhelmed Fain, it took his soul, so to speak, but his soul was so mangled and so messed up by this, what the Dark One did to him, and what happened with Mordeth's attempted takeover, that it couldn't really take his soul, but his soul was imprinted upon the Black Wind. And so the Black Wind is now obsessed with Rand, and it knows where Rand is.
I just imagine like a scene like where the Black Wind and Pat and Fane are like, did we just become best friends?
I want to make that into a
That's all
meme
I have
now.
to add
Yeah.
on that. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see here.
Yeah, that's because I've seen like a lot of like speculation about that. A lot of people wondering what's going on there.
Yeah,
and that's definitely it.
It's so
it's
creepy.
one way or another. Fane was directing or influencing the Black Wind.
Yeah. I mean,
but
reading Fane was creepy as hell too. You know, Fane decided how the man was
yeah.
going to die. I was like,
some of our very
wow.
few Pat and Fane points of view in the whole series are in this book.
Yeah.
And we find out he killed that guy, Huan.
Yeah. Turok is like,
Yeah.
oh, when he went missing, I was expecting the one who calls himself Fane, since my last bodyguard, you know, had ever since what happened with, what was the name, Huan? It was, yeah. I don't even want to imagine what happened to that guy, dude.
Yeah. Probably something similar to the Murdral in that village by the Arryn.
Yeah. Something similar, or something completely different and equally horrifying.
But so my second lore point is a little more speculation based.
Sure.
But I again have some corroborating evidence behind this, and that is Barthanes and his death. He is found torn limb from limb in his bedroom.
Wait a second. Wait a second. Holy crap. I hadn't actually picked up on that detail. He was torn limb from limb?
Torn limb from limb.
Dude, that's the Golem.
It is indeed the Golem.
That has to be the Golem.
And more evidence for this. He's found torn limb from limb in his room in his manor. The next time the Golem is seen in this series is in Barthanes' manor, tearing Herod Fell limb from limb.
That was in Barthanes' manor?
Yeah, Rand converts
Herod
Barthanes' manor into the academy in Cairhien.
Right, and that's of course where Herod Fell would be studying. Holy crap, dude! Oh my god, what a damn! How could you say that's less substantial? That's concrete, right?
Well, it's not confirmed as far as I know.
Does it need to be?
But the evidence points that way.
Yeah.
That this is not only do we get our first Gray Man, but we probably get our first Golem reference in this book.
That's cool. That's really cool. Damn. Well, we do have one more listener question to get through.
We do?
We do, actually. And this is, again, from Joy Kristen Allen. She wants to know, was Rand really good enough to defeat the Shan-Chan Blade Master, Turak? Discuss. Do you think he was good enough to defeat Turak, or do you think perhaps some Ta'Viren was at play there?
I don't think some Ta'Viren was at play. There was nothing, like, along the lines of chance that occurred during the duel.
Besides the fact that Rand al'Thor at this point had only been practicing with a sword for how long? And suddenly he defeats a Shan-Chan Blade Master? I'll come out and say...
That's not chance. Like,
you think
that's
it was
not
skill?
how Ta'Viren works. Yeah, I do. Rand straight up says that he wasn't as good as him, but he caught him off guard once, and that's all it takes.
Yeah, but I guess I would go forward and say that I think Rand might have defeated him legitimately, but if that's the case, then I need the Shan-Chan Blade Master's mark to be worth less than the Randland's Blade Master mark, because I'm sorry, nobody who practiced the sword for a few weeks should defeat a Blade Master.
Months. Rand started practicing
in the Eye of the
like
World.
the spring, and yeah, they lost like 4 months with the Portal Stone, but that he was still practicing for a
5
long
months.
time.
No,
yeah.
5 months? Really? A Blade Master?
I mean, I'm not
Have we
saying
dismissed
he
the
was.
possibility the Blade Master was drunk.
Yes, well, all he drinks is
there
calf,
are
though.
two things that play into this. One, Rand was overmatched. He says it outright. He's like, even with the Void, he's losing, and he's like, I have to do something desperate to end it right now, or I'm gonna die. And he does something desperate, and it works. And two,
That might be
Turak was toying with him.
I would argue that that's why Turak doesn't deserve the Blade Master's mark then, if he allows himself to be caught off guard by somebody as inexperienced as Rand al'Thor. That in itself means that the Shan Chan Blade Master mark, or however Turak found himself with it, was unearned.
Yeah, maybe Turak wasn't like, but he was a Blade Master. I mean, he earned the Heron, and
Did
we
he?
also see another Shan Chan Blade Master later in the series who's very good, who fights Rodel Ituralde.
Yeah,
So,
but I can't accept. Maybe it's because I'm holding the Blade Master's mark on too high of a pedestal, but I can't. I refuse to believe that Rand al'Thor, with 5 months of sword training, through whatever coincidence or not even coincidence, but just with catching him off guard with the mind games, not necessarily with the skill, but the surprise factor, I still don't think a Blade Master should have let himself fall for that, and I think. It's not so much speaking for Rand al'Thor's skill as it is against Turak, because, dude, come on.
that's certainly a possibility, and I'm not one of the people who's like gotten hardcore into like the forum conversations, like who could beat who's better. But my impression always was that of the Blade Masters we see in this series, Turak was one of the worst.
Oh, hands down. We don't see a whole lot of them, but I think he has to be the worst.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know.
I never thought like Torum Riotin was probably all that great.
What, are you kidding me? He almost killed Lan.
I mean, he bloodied Lan, but Lan gets bloodied a lot.
Yeah, but Lan gets bloodied a lot when he's surrounded by Trollocs and Murdrell. He doesn't get bloodied on a one-on-one.
Lan got bloodied by Ryan Venomar.
Who?
Lan straight up said Ryan was better than him in New
Spring. But that was a New Spring. That was 30 years before Lan had, or 20 years before Lan had.
Yeah, when Lan was in his prime.
No, I would say he's in his prime now. He's not as young as he is now.
Not his physical prime.
He's not in his physical prime.
Human physical prime is like your mid to late 20s.
Oh, sure. I'm in my physical prime now. I should be in my physical prime now.
And I'll also just say, in New Spring, Lan just got done fighting Aiel for months.
But he's only had, in New Spring, he's had, what, 10, 15 years of practice with the sword? Oh, no, of course, he's been trained since the cradle. But still, he's not a Blade Master in New Spring, is he?
Yeah, he is.
Is he?
Well, so Lan is technically, like...
Well, not a Blade Master,
well, actually, I don't know when
right?
Well, he doesn't have the Herons. He is technically a Blade Master because he's defeated Blade Masters in combat.
But it needs to be witnessed.
But he never... Yeah, he never like carries a sword with Herons on. I don't know, but
I don't know. Yeah, on your point about Torum Riotin, anybody that can bloody
Rand was handling Torum Riotin in A Crown of Swords before the Bubble of Evil happened. So
that was Torum Riotin.
Is like the coolest name,
right? Yeah, yeah. In the Rebel Kyrianan camp.
That was Torum Riotin.
Sorry,
sport cousin. That was him.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Because he got
anyway, we're going way off board now. But,
I just don't think there's enough information about Blade Masters and like the ranking system in general to really know.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly,
I'll just say Rand got really lucky, or not really lucky, maybe he's the mind games, whatever, and Torum Riotin. And Turak just sucks. He's one of the worst Blade Masters of all time if he honestly let himself get fooled by somebody who's only been practicing for 5 months, regardless as to their station.
Fair. I'm fine with that, yeah.
Yeah, I'm fine with that explanation.
With accepting that.
Okay.
I will say, I do not think Taviran came into the situation there. There was nothing of chance. There wasn't like, Riotin, or, wow.
See, I got you doing it now too, yeah.
Turak didn't, stumble over the body of a soldier who just happened to fall behind him or anything. There wasn't, a porcelain, vase that fell over and distracted him at just the wrong time. There was no Taviran chance at play.
It's just, how do you...
He's just arrogant, that's...
And honestly, going off your explanation, Rob, that could be kind of poetic in a sense that Robert Jordan, as he wrote it, that duel starts with Turak being supremely confident and saying, let's see what it takes to earn the heron
Yeah.
on this side of the ocean.
Yeah.
When maybe what it takes to earn the heron on the other side of the ocean is in fact the lower standard. I don't know.
Yeah, could be it.
So,
Yeah.
Speculation.
but yeah, do we have any any just last thoughts on the Great Hunt?
I just
Before
want
we
to
move
give
into the final
a
draft?
shout out to that awesome one-on-one, fight scene between Rand and Turok. I think that's one of the greatest one-on-one fantasy duels of all time. I mean, the way it was written, the way that Jordan described it as being like a dance, and their music was steel on steel. I mean, we hear a lot more of this kind of description later in the series, but this was seminal, I think, to that entire style of writing.
It's the first real duel we get in the series. So.
Yeah,
My only room for disagreement is like,
Sure.
if my other favorite scene was when Rand was shooting his bow in the parallel world.
Oh,
you know,
right.
That was
at the
yeah, that was
Golem.
my
Oh,
favorite.
the Golem.
Yeah.
What the hell
No,
am I saying? The Golem.
The Grom, yeah.
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 That was my favorite scene in the book.
Oh,
Really?
That was, I like that. Yeah.
Oh, we got to do top 3 scenes.
Yeah, I totally forgot top 3 scenes. I didn't even write any down, but I've been thinking.
Oh
as
my gosh.
As we've been talking.
All right. Well, yeah. I gotta wing it here.
Yeah.
Rob,
Well, I mean,
do
I've
you
got
have, 2 more scenes to go since you just said your top scene.
Crap. Let me see.
Well, if you guys want to give it a think, I've got a couple ready.
Okay, go ahead.
The fight between Rand and Turok, we were just talking. That was one of my favorite scenes in the whole book. Ingtar's final stand, fucking incredible, absolutely awesome. And oh god, there was one that I thought, that's a bit of an odd choice, but I might take that. Oh, shit, it might have been. I'll have to come back to this one later, but I think it was when Rand and Loial are trying to convince Tom Merrilin that they have the Horn of Valir. And Tom is just having none of it. He's like,
Yeah.
oh, come on. A shepherd and a beardless Ogier have the Horn of Valir.
Yeah, he's
Really?
like, I could bring you to 10 inns where some guy will tell you he's got the horn, and I'll bring you to 5 more where the guy says he'll sell it to you for a couple of silvers.
Yeah.
I mean, the scene where Tom comes back and finds his girlfriend, dead.
Yeah.
I was like, that whole scene is super emotional. I liked it.
Yeah.
Not as an enjoyable scene, but
Yeah,
it
yeah.
was
Well
it's
written.
Yeah.
Well executed.
Yeah.
When Ingtar and company finally arrive in Cairhien, and they arrive at the Burning Inn, and Rand just breaks down in the street, and he starts to laugh.
Yeah.
What a
crazy-
stunning view into the mind, into just the whole situation that Randall Thor has found himself in. I mean, I don't know if I would react any differently. Ingtar arrives just as the horn is stolen
Laughing
again.
at the irony
Just
of
the
life.
laughing of it, just like, oh my god, of course this would happen to me. Of course,
Yeah.
right?
So as far as top 3 goes, my top scene is Ingtar's final stand.
Sure.
I call it Ingtar's suicide.
My second favorite is the chapter citing Rand approaching the Choyden Call and muttering the Aiel.
The Aiel chant till the shade is gone.
And I love the cadence. I love the construction of the writing in that scene. I think it's brilliantly done. It the way he has these one sentence paragraphs interspersed with sentence fragments as Rand is speaking and then acting and speaking and acting, and the tension just ratchets up. It's beautiful. Yeah. And then for similar reasons, the whole sequence of Rand using the portal stone going to Tomon Head, the flicker.
Yeah, flicker. I was gonna ask
get
you
a
what the
description
hell
of a life.
happened in there.
And in between his lives, we get fragments of Varen saying, something isn't right. Something's wrong, and screams.
Yeah.
And it just, again, the way Robert Jordan constructed these things, the way he wrote them was so impressive. It really just builds the tension to a breaking point. It makes you uneasy to read. Flicker, 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 flicker. It's so well done.
I'm so glad you brought this up.
Yeah, and to answer your question of what do I think happened there?
Yep, that's one question.
So it's
just Rand's fumbling with Saidin, not being
Yeah,
practiced enough, letting it kind of consume him as he's distracted. A
yeah.
surge
And
of
I
the
also
one
think
power.
he chose like the wrong symbol.
Symbol, really?
Because there are two of them, right? There are two of them. It's like a circle with like a triangle. One of them, the triangle is completely in the circle. One of them, the triangle's piercing the circle, and one of them's like going left and one's going right. And he chooses the one that's piercing the circle and pointing left because that's the one that like
Toward
is pointing
Toman
toward Toman Head.
Yeah.
I think he chose the wrong one, and that essentially was like what put them through this.
Okay.
And that and on top of that, like because there was the surge, there was like a surge of the one power.
Yeah.
As Varen describes it, and like that was like essentially Rand inadvertently channeled, and like with this, it provided like another resonance type thing. That's at least how I interpreted it.
Yeah, there was something I noticed about the order of events, the order of lives that we got before we got to the flicker.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if this. I mean, this is only the three examples, so I don't know if it's enough to actually form a pattern or not. But I noticed this time going through that with each successive vision that we got from Rand's point of view, they were slightly less and less likely. For example, in the first vision, Rand he fumbles the hot ceramic thing full of water before he throws it at the Trolloc in the house, in the farmhouse.
Mm-hmm.
And of course the Trolloc just runs him through. Such a small little detail, something shifted so slightly, boom, ended right away. And the next one, I think it was that he never left the Two Rivers. That Moiraine never found him in the Two Rivers, right? And then he goes on he lived his whole life in the Two Rivers, and he went mad. He Egwene died. And then the third one, he actually leaves the Two Rivers on his adventure or whatever, and he, supposedly going to Ilion, and he gets mugged and Baerlon, and he ends up, forming his life in the Queen's Guards and kind of pining after Queen Elaine in that vision. Do you think like there's actually something to be said about that, or maybe perhaps Jordan did that intentionally, that with each successive flicker there, it was farther and farther removed from the reality that we found ourselves reading?
It's certainly possible,
but it's just not enough data to
like
form an
you
actual
said.
sequence, right?
Like,
or a pattern.
Some of the like later lives when it's just like in
a sentence,
like, brief descriptions.
He was a soldier.
It says some of them like Moiraine came and got him. Sometimes it was other Aes Sedai. Sometimes it was Red Aja. Like there are things that like maybe aligned more closely later on, but we don't get enough detail about them to know.
Sure.
Like, maybe it was Moiraine who found him again, and that seems like on the surface more closely aligned with reality. But maybe in that version of events, Moiraine found him, but Moiraine had never been there when Jatara Moroso had the foretelling and had no idea. She wasn't looking for him. She just stumbled her way into the Two Rivers or things like that. It could be. I kind of like that theory. So.
No, the only thing I have left to discuss, actually not just discussion, I just wanted to reiterate something that you mentioned in part 1 of The Great Hunt. It might have actually been Eye of the World. I think, yes, it was Eye of the World part 1 I was listening to the proof of recently. And you mentioned in Eye of the World part 1 that you enjoyed Min's humor. And I found myself laughing along with Min's humor in this one as well. There was a point when she says they're going to go dance with the Dark One, right? I found that kind of cool, kind of cheeky. And then there was another moment when near the very, very end when she's kind of hauling an unconscious Randall Thor, and she's just kind of dragging him along, and she said something along the lines of, "Why couldn't I have had something simple, like being stranded with a dozen hungry Aielmen?"
Yeah,
something along those lines. I did find that she actually has this kind of staggering humor that I wasn't really picking up on before.
Yeah, like I think it's part of the reason that a lot of people like Min so much is that she has a very down-to-earth, relatable kind of humor.
Yeah.
And I do like that about her. The things I don't like about Min are separated entirely from like her personality.
And you had mentioned we'll be discussing a lot of that later, yeah.
Yeah. But
that's everything that I have.
Do you have any kind of last thoughts on The Great Hunt?
It's hard to. I cannot think of a third scene that hasn't already been mentioned that I think worth noting. Loyal staying outside the setting should be mentioned.
Oh, we were on our favorite scenes. I forgot about that.
Yeah. No, I can't. I gotta say, I do love the climax of this with the end of the end when he actually sounds the horn and you get to see all the, see all the heroes for the first time. That's a great way
Coming
to
down
end.
the fog
Yeah,
like the
yeah.
side of a mountain. That was cool.
That was super cool. I should know that was great. See Brigitte for the first time.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. The way she just nukes that ship as it's leaving the
Yeah.
harbor. Just like, bitch, what? Get good.
It's pretty bad. It's super bad.
GG easy.
After what is essentially a fairly bleak book in a lot of spots, you kind of get this super encouraging scene that like the light's not completely doomed. Like they have a chance here. Like it's a bit of a hopefulness.
Yeah.
It's nice. Yeah, that's I think that's about all I can think of.
Okay. So shall we move into the final draft then?
Yes, let's move into the final draft.
Canadian Rob, how about you kick us off?
Canadian Rob kicking us off here with an American bourbon. This here is Maker's Mark, which I'm sure everybody's had listening to this at some point. It's a very, very popular bourbon, and there's a reason for it. It's just straight up delicious. It's amazing. I mean, as far as this is 45%. I thought it was 40%. Damn. But anyway, I mean, that actually kind of explains a bit of my lingering hangover too. But no, Maker's Mark is something that I've been drinking ever since I listened to the Rooster Teeth podcast. They touted it on there once. I heard them mention it a few times, so I tried it out once I saw it here, and I saw we could get it here. That big dollop of red wax on the top. I'm just like, ooh, that looks like a nice little bottle, but a very old-fashioned label. But as far as the flavor goes, very, very easy to go down, straight, even warm. I found this out the other day. I had left it outside, and I was like, oh, I got a bit of warm Maker's here. I'm gonna give it a sip, and it actually goes down really well if it's warm. It's like it burns so well, but it's almost like a cinnamon burn. It's just, I don't know, it's a very, very good bourbon. I would absolutely recommend Maker's Mark, especially while listening to the Inking Out Loud podcast.
Hey. Rob Winchell, what about you?
I classed it up today. I brought a 40 of Mickey's.
Mickey's? What is Mickey's? Is that a beer?
Yes, it's is fine malt liquor. They cost about 40 cents, something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Holy
my
crap.
gosh.
Classing
Yeah,
it up. That's like the time I brought
I am
Bush
a
onto the
classy
podcast.
Oh,
Man,
yeah.
I today was rough. Like I know I smell terrible. I'm pretty sure I might hypothetically have came into this still tripping a little bit. Like it's fine. Like it's been
All good.
It's been a good day.
As long as you can have a discussion, that's what we do this for, my man.
Oh, man. Well, I anchored it. I had a thematically appropriate beer, and this is my ode to Ingtar and to Varen.
Oh, I'm excited.
So what I've been drinking today is it is an oak-aged ale with Brettanomyces from Deschutes Brewing Company in Oregon. And, it's pretty acidic, pretty sour, a lot of good oak notes in it, as you would expect. Not as fruity as as you might think, because it was brewed with cherries, but I don't get a ton of cherry in it. Has a little bit of that funky Brettanomyces, but again, like it's mostly just like a pretty straightforward sour ale. It's good though. It's pretty solid.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna just tell you the label here has a raven on it.
A black raven. Of course, that's the only kind of raven. Never mind.
And
Forget I
it's
said
called
that.
The Dissident.
A blue raven.
Dissident. Oh.
The Dissident.
That is on
Dissident.
theme.
I like
So
it.
this is
Sticking
my
with the theme
Dark
of
Friend
Ingtar
beer.
and Varen, right?
Yeah.
I wish I had the beer I had last podcast. That was way more on theme with the
That's how I feel every time I'm not drinking
Yeah.
Glenfiddich.
Oh,
I wish I had that scotch that I had on 3 episodes now. I think I've had that one for.
Yeah, you've had Glenfiddich on a couple of times.
I love it.
I will tell you, I already have my beer for part 1 of the Dragon Reborn. And
really?
It's awesome.
Oh,
It's perfect.
Nice.
So, yeah.
I'm stoked now.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that pretty much wraps up our discussion for The Great Hunt, Book 2 of the Wheel of Time.
Awesome book.
This has been episode 30.
30
of the Inking
episodes.
Out Loud
Not counting
podcast.
Patreon exclusives, of course. But yeah.
And next up, we'll going straight into The Dragon Reborn. We're going to read chapters 1 through 29. So the final chapter we'll read is called. Oh dang it! I just forgot what the chapter name is. It's like a trap to spring, I believe.
Yeah.
But
you
yeah,
told me at the
it's-
top of the
it's-
episode. I forget too.
Yeah, it's just about half the book. We will have a pretty special guest on for that one. So
Yeah, we will.
definitely stay
I'm not
tuned.
special. Fine.
Hey, he said pretty
you-
special. You're regular special.
you
I
were
guess.
very
I'm
special.
regular special.
You were very special.
Oh, shucks. Blushing.
Sexy Rob.
So yeah, as Rob mentioned, take a look at our Patreon. Consider supporting us. Our Patreon support is going straight toward paying our sound engineer and our artist. So we really support that. They support that. We are not gonna let people behind the scenes go unpaid. We're big believers in paying people for their work, and the Patreon
Especially
helps us
with
do
these
that.
2-hour episodes that we've been doing lately. I mean, with time. Yeah.
We're really putting a burden on Pat with the sound editing.
Love you, Pat.
So please consider supporting us on Patreon. And as always, I'm your host, Drew McCaffrey. With me is my co-host, Rob Santos,
Yes.
and our very special guest,
Our
Rob
very
Winchell.
specialist guest.
I love you too.
And we'll catch you next time.
Bye, everybody.